element of how the battles of Amalek came through in the Tanakh. Why have been the Tanakh with it? And in the Torah, we know the first story of Amalek is at the end of Parshas B'Shalach, which we spoke about a few weeks ago, and the repetition of the mitzvah brought in Parshat Ki Tetzeh. Okay, I'll try to speak louder. Okay, but one of the things which you do find is that the Rambam, at the end of the Sefer HaMitzvot, when he summarizes the different types of mitzvot which exist, he says there's certain mitzvot which are on the individual, on the yochid, and there's certain mitzvot which are on the tzibur. Now, the division of mitzvot which the Rambam uses is basically the mitzvot which are positive commandments, mitzvot aseh, mitzvot lo ta'aseh, 248 mitzvot aseh, 365 lo ta'aseh. But the original division of the mitzvot, which the first one who actually did it was Rabbeinu Sadia Gaon. Rabbeinu Sadia Gaon lived about 300 years before the Rambam, and he also wrote a book called Sefer HaMitzvot. And there he divides it into 4 different sections. The first section is the positive commandments on the individual. The second section is the negative commandments on the individual. The third one is the mitzvot which are on the tzibur. And then the prohibitions and the mitzvot aseh which have got punishments. Direct punishments. A different sort of division, and until that was accepted for approximately 250 years, this division of Rabbeinu Sadia Gaon, and then the Rambam decided to change everything, and that's what the Rambam did. He actually created a whole new conceptual idea for us in the whole world of halacha. But what he does do at the end of the Sefer HaMitzvot, he does state that we have to realize that even though I put them all in the same categories, positive commandments, negative commandments, we still have to notice there are mitzvot which the individual can't do. There's no way the individual can do. And that's what he writes in line number 5. וכשתסתכל, כל אלו המצוות שקדם זכרם, and if you look in all the mitzvot which we mentioned before, הנה תמצא מהם מצוות שהם חובה לציבור. There are liabilities on the tzibur. לא לכל איש ואיש. Not the individual can't do it. כגון בניין בייס הבחירה, building the Beis HaMikdash, הקמת מלך, a king. Why? Because the people have to decide themselves whether they want a king or not. The individual got no decision. Correct, it's a democratic vote, but it's a mitzvah on the tzibur. והחלטת זרעו של עמלק. ומהם, and amongst them, there are mitzvot שהם חובה לאיש מיוחד. There are mitzvot on the individual. אם עשה פעולה פלונית או שימצאו עם פלוני. כמו קורבן, שוגג, etc., etc. ופעמים, and there'll be times, יעמוד אחד מן האנשים כל ימי חייו, that a man will stand his whole life, and he won't do certain mitzvot. Okay? We haven't got a Beis HaMikdash nowadays. If we haven't got a Beis HaMikdash, we can't bring korbanot. So therefore there are situations where not the individual can keep all the mitzvot. So therefore what do we learn from this? That the mitzvah of Amalek, according to the Rambam, is on the people. There's no mitzvah for me to find a good old Amaleki and slaughter him. There's no mitzvah like that. There has to be a system. There has to be Klal Yisrael have to decide that there's going to be a war. But the individual, there's no mitzvah at all to go and kill an Amalek, according to the Rambam. And that's what the Rambam says.
Is there an Isser?
1 minute. Yes, there is an Isser, because then it might be considered that you murdered a goy. Yeah. Shalom, the Rambam says the following, Shalosh mitzvot. Nitztavu Yisrael, line number 10, B'shar knisatam, we already mentioned it last time. B'shar knisatam la'aretz, limnot lehem melech, shenema som tasim alecha melech, la'achrit zaro shel Amalek, etc., etc. And the Rambam carries on and says in the 5th perek, halacha hey, v'chein mitzvat aseh la'abed zichram. There's a mitzvah to demolish them. Shneimar timchet zeich Amalek. Or mitzvat aseh lizkor tamid. There's also a mitzvah aseh to remember it, etc., etc. But the chinuch, the Sefer HaChinuch, argues with the Rambam. And he says the following. וזאת מן המצווה המוטלת על הציבור כולם. There is a mitzvah, this mitzvah is on everybody. וכעניין שאמרו זיכרונם לברכה, 3 מצוות נצטוו ישראל בשעה כניסתם לארץ, למנות להם מלך, he quotes the Rambam. But in line number 25 he says the following, ובאמת, כי גם על כל יחיד מישראל הזכרים, a male guy, מוטל החיוב להורגם. He's got his own mitzvah to do it. That means if he sees an Amaleki, he's got a mitzvah to go and kill him. להורגם ולאבדם, אם יש כוח בידם, if he's got the ability to do it, בכל מקום ובכל זמן, אם אולי ימצא אחד מכל זרם, ועובר על זה ובא לידו אחד מזרע המולקי, and if he transgresses this mitzvah, and he finds a guy from Amalek, ויש סיפק בידו להורגו, and he can go and do it, ולא הרגו, and he didn't bump him off, he didn't kill him, ביטל עשה זו. Right. So according to the chinuch, there is a mitzvah on the individual to go out, and if he finds an Amaleki, then he can kill him.
Right.
Right. Yes.
Why does it say Ascharim? Why not women also?
Because women in those days didn't go out to battle. There's no mitzvah on a woman to go and fight. Okay, that's the emes. Okay, they've got the job, but to go and kill somebody, there's no mitzvah on them.
I thought on the Chavis mitzvah, the women go out.
But it depends what they go out for. Do they go out and fight? Do they go out and support? What do they do there? And that's a completely different concept. Okay? But the chinuch says, and here we see something very interesting, that according to the chinuch, the mitzvah of wiping out Amalek was also on the individual and not on Klal Yisrael. That's concept number 1. So now the question arises, according to the chinuch, why did Shaul need a commandment? Why did Shaul, or why did they have to wait so long in order to go out and fight against Amalek? Let's look at now we're going to analyze the stories of Amalek in the Tanakh. Now, why is this so important? The Tanakh, Nevi'im and Ksuvim, are the first interpretations which we have on the Torah. They are the first interpretations. Nevi'im and Ksuvim were not only written as stories, but from them we can deduce what were the objectives of HaKadosh Baruch Hu when he dictated the Torah to Moshe. So therefore, when we learn the stories of Nevi'im and Ksuvim, they also interpret to us the explanations of the Torah. To give ourselves an example, okay? The story of the spies, the Chet HaMeraglim. Okay, the Torah doesn't tell us what the sin was. Yet, if we learn Tehillim properly, in Perek Ayin Vav and Perek Kuf Hey, you will see how David HaMelech explains to us the sin of the spies. What was their Aveira? What was their sin? Yeah, we're not going into it because that's a different subject. But Nevi'im and Ksuvim are the explanatory, first conceptual ideas of the Perush of the Torah. What we did with it afterwards doesn't make any difference. But we still have to learn Nevi'im and Ksuvim to explain to us concepts in the Torah. Now, and here we have one. Vayomer Shmuel el Shaul. We read it on Parshas Zohar. Vayomer Shmuel el Shaul. Oti shalach Hashem lemoshchecha lemelech al amo al Yisrael. Kodesh Baruch Hu appointed you to anoint you as king on his people Am Yisrael. Va'ata shma lekol divrei Elokim. Listen to what Kodesh Baruch Hu told me to tell you. Ko amar Hashem tzvakot. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said. Pakadati et asher asa Amalek Yisrael asher asam lo baderech ba'aloto miMitzrayim. I've now commanded you to remember what Amalek did when Am Yisrael came out of Egypt. So Shmuel now is actually telling him that I got a commandment to tell you as the king. The Novi tells the king what to do. Now, as Rabbi Sachs wrote in one of his brilliant articles, The Division of Powers. The division of powers in Klal Yisrael. Kohanim, Sanhedrin, Melech, Prophet. There's no one absolute power. There is a system, a four-tier system. The king, the Sanhedrin, the Kohanim, and the Novi. And each one has a different job to do. Sometimes the king can override the Sanhedrin. Sometimes the Sanhedrin overrides the king. Sometimes the Sanhedrin overrides the Kohanim. And sometimes the Kohanim overrides Sanhedrin. Etc., etc. The balance of powers. And here, Shmuel tells Shaul, now I got a prophecy. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told me to tell you something. Go and deal with Amalek. Says the Brisker Rav, great Rav Yitzchak Zev Soloveitchik, says the following. Line number 35. V'nire muchach mizeh. It would appear from this statement, she'af al pi shemilchemes Amalek hu echad migimel mitzvot shenistavu Yisrael b'knisatam la'aretz. Even though Mechias Amalek is a mitzvah, the minute you go into Eretz Yisrael. And why did they wait 400 years? Yeshua, Shoftim, Shaul. What happened? Surely they had a mitzvah to go and do it. Okay, so perhaps there wasn't a king. But let's ask ourselves, Yeshua was considered a melech. The Rambam says specifically, Yeshua had the din of a melech. Why didn't Yeshua do the job? Why didn't Yeshua do the job? And the answer, says the Brisker Rav, is the following. Line number 36. Ein mechuyavim rak binvuah sheyilchamu itam. Only a prophet can come and tell them when the time has come. Milchemes Amalek, according to this explanation, is a function of timing. Is not something where automatically the king has to do. No, there is timing. De'im loke, if that is not the case, lama nitztarchu kan letzivui miuchad. Why did he need a specific commandment? Umuvua ze bikra, and this is what's written in the Torah. Dichtiv milchemet lashem ba'amalek. The milchama al pi Hashem hi. The milchama is based on the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, what does that mean? We're not talking about a situation where Amalek comes and attacks us. No. If Amalek comes and attacks us, then we've got a chiyuv because we've got to save ourselves. No. This is initiating. When do we go out and kill off Amalek? And the answer is never. Unless the Navi comes and tells you to do it. Why? Because we don't have the ability just to go out and kill without reason. Am Yisrael have got no mitzvah like that. Okay? Unless we're attacked. But to go and instigate it, but to go and create an environment of war just like that, that is based on the timing of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Let me just finish off and then you'll ask questions. Umitbae mizeh, ma shekosav Rambam. Mitzvahs aseh lachrim zayin amamim. You've got a mitzvah of killing off the 7 nations when you went into Eretz Yisrael. Uve mitzvahs Amalek, lo katav di mechuyav kol sheba liyado Amalek lehorgo. You don't find this mitzvah on the individual. There has to be a king according to the Rambam. כמו שכתב במצוות דמחי עשיים עממים, והמורח דאין חיוב, רק על פי השם בנבואה. Only through הקדוש ברוך הוא, through prophecy. שילחמו בעמלק ולמחותם, ועין בספר המצוות, דמנע מחיית עמלק, בין המצוות המוטלות על הציבור, it's only a mitzvah on the tzibur. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells you when to do it. When we've got mitzvahs on the tzibur, according to the Rambam, you need a prophet. A prophet comes and tells you when to appoint a king. A prophet comes and tells David Amalek to prepare for building the Beis HaMikdash. And a prophet comes and tells Am Yisrael when to go and fight Amalek. Questions?
If I have to wait for a prophet to tell me, why does it have to even list it as a mitzvah? He goes up and tells me to go kill Amalek.
No.
Kill Amalek.
I'll explain to you why. Who says we've got to go and listen to the prophet? Right. That means to say, okay, if we do not motivate, now remember, the motivation for this is based on the mitzvah not to widen the borders of Eretz Yisrael. This is killing for the sake of killing. Killing for the sake of killing, okay, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to see whether the people are ready for it. And that's where you need a nevuah. Once the Novi comes and tells you, then the Melech has got a mitzvah to get his army ready to do it. But the initial stages of the timing, that you need a prophet for. That is the explanation of this posuk. Yes?
There might be another reason that you need Hashem to define and point out who is Amalek.
No. Amalek was known.
I tell you why I say that. Because I heard a Vort lately.
Don't speak Vortim, okay? I don't like Vortim. Vortim is not emes.
Not a Vort.
It's not emes.
Excuse me. I heard a report lately that one of the difficulties of defining who Amalek is because there have been so many generations.
But Shmuel knew. We're talking about Shmuel. We're not worried about now. I'm talking about Shmuel. We're learning Tanakh. We're learning Tanakh now.
That's what I'm trying to get.
No, they knew who Amalek was. He existed. Agog, they knew who it was. There was no Sophic. We're learning Tanakh now. That's what I mean, Vortim. I don't like to translate from what happened then to nowadays. Okay, I don't know nowadays. You need Vortim for nowadays. I don't know that. Yeah.
Who was a Novi?
Shmuel.
Okay, Shmuel had credentials, but the problem is they opened up schools for Nevi'ah.
No.
So who do you believe?
Only a Novi who's muchzak.
How do you know who's Muhsin?
Oh, there's a whole cycle of proving who a Novi is. A Novi who comes and tells you something bad is going to happen to you and it doesn't happen.
Is it done? Yeah, Navi Sheker.
No, not necessarily. Could have done
He's a good
Shuvah.
Novi. He runs
Only
it.
the Rambam in his introduction to Perush HaMishnayos. Okay, the Rambam in his introduction to Perush HaMishnayos speaks about that. And he says, if a Novi comes and tells you that there's something good is going to happen, and it doesn't happen, then you know he's a Novi Sheker. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't change his mind for good. He'll change his mind for bad.
That's a good answer.
Thank you. That's the Rambam, it's not mine. Yeah.
There's actually two Lashonos that are mentioned in the Torah.
Sorry?
They're in two different places. Different Lashonos are mentioned.
Milchem Hashem b'Amalek, and correct. Emche. Nachon, correct. But Machot Timche is based on Machot Emche. That's the Chidush. You've only got a Timche if Mochoi Emche. That's the Chidush of the story of Shmuel. That's what he means to say. That it's one is dependent on the other. This can only be done up here Novi.
But how do you know that it's not the other way around? It's not.
That's the Chidush of the Psukim according to this. Because if there would be just Timche, then I don't need Shmuel. This introduction creates this concept. Now, let's go a stage further.
Yeah.
Now, Ato, line number 45. Lech V'kiso es Amalek. Go and fight against Amalek. V'achramtem et kol asher lo. And destroy everything which he's got. V'lo tachmol alav. Don't have any mercy on him. V'hemata me'ish ad isha me'olel v'ad yonek. Wipe out every person, women, children, babies, children and babies. Mishor v'ad seh, migamal v'ad chamor. Wipe out everything. Now, where's that written in the Torah? Where's it written in the Torah, such a thing? Shmuel seems to widen the scope of the mitzvah. All of a sudden, he creates a whole new mysterious concept. Where did he know it from? Okay. Rashi comes along and tells us, Timche zecher Amalek. Okay? V'haya ba'aniach Hashem Elokecha lecha mikol oivecha misaviv Timche zecher Amalek. Rashi comes along and tells us, Me'ish v'ad isha me'olel v'ad yonek mishor v'ad seh. Shmuel interprets what HaKadosh Baruch Hu meant. This is what Rashi comes and tells us. Shmuel interprets what HaKadosh Baruch Hu meant. שלא יהיה שם זכר, שלא שם עמלק נזכר, אפילו על בהמה. לומר, בהמה זו משל עמלק או יסוד. This belonged to Amalek. Now, Ibn Ezra goes further, and he says the following. תמחה את זרח עמלק, וזהו בהמתה מאיש ועד אישה, מעולל ועד יונק, מישור ועד שא, שלא יאמר זה אשר היה משלל עמלק. ודברי תורה כלל, ודברי שמואל פרט. The Torah speaks in general terms. Shmuel gave us the details. This is what I mean interpreting. Shmuel, according to Rashi and Ibn Ezra, actually comes and tells us what? That Zecher means that even if there was an animal which belonged to Amalek, you've got to wipe it out. There's only one problem. And the problem is that the Rambam never ever said such a thing. The Rambam didn't say it. It says the following. V'chein mitzvahs aseh la'abed zecher Amalek. Shneemar, timchet zecher Amalek. ומצוות עשה לזכור תמיד מעשיו הרעים והערבתו, etc., etc. The Rambam doesn't mention what and how. Now, to wipe out every single person, children, babies, we've never found such a thing before. Never. There's only one time where children were actually killed. No, besides Makat B'chorot. Korach. Korach, the whole of the family of Datan v'Abiram went down. And Rashi says there, even though HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't punish, we don't punish anybody except from 20 years old, or 13, Korach was an exception. We never find children getting killed. There's no mitzvah. So why here? Okay? What are you forced to say? His grandfather was Amalek. Kill him. Says the Minchas Chinuch, בדבר זה, דאף בהמה צריכים להרוג, אינו מבואר ברמב"ם, וברב המחבר, line number 65. This concept of wiping out the animals, we don't understand it. It's not mentioned in the Rambam. ואיני יודע מהיכן הוציא רש"י זה. Where did Rashi get it from? ובספרי כאן לא ראיתי זה. Don't know where he got it from. Now, the Minchas Chinuch doesn't quote all the Midrashei Chazal. There are certain Midrashei Chazal which are this is mentioned, what Rashi mentioned. But it's not mentioned in the halachic parts of the Midrashei Chazal. It's mentioned in a Mechilta in Parsha Shmois, in Parshas B'Shalach.
But so what? Shmuel mentions it.
Pardon?
So what? Shmuel says it.
Says the Minchas Chinuch, Umimaise de Shaul, En Raya. Don't prove that is the halacha. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu tziva lo az al yidei Shmuel. Avliyot mitzvah ledorot, that this should be a mitzvah ledorot, lo shamanu, we've never brought in the whole of Mishnah, Gemara, Yerushalmi, Bavli, it's not mentioned.
Wait.
Says the Minchas Chinuch, so where did Rashi get this, that in actual fact he had to do it? So Shmuel has no problem. He had a tzivui for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that when anybody else in another king will have to do it, where does he know it from? What does he have to do? Yeah.
I thought you started off by saying is the Tanakh conceptualizes.
Correct, according to the Ibn Ezra. According to the Ibn Ezra.
Only of it.
Aye, why did the Rambam miss it out? So the Rambam explains why he missed it out, that he doesn't mention it. Let's learn inside the Rambam in his introduction to the Mishnah. V'achelek hasheni, the second part of the mitzvot, sheikra la'avodat Hashem, v'yazhir al Torato, v'yitzaveh, what is the job of a prophet? Sheikra la'avodat Hashem, v'yazhir al Torato, v'yitzaveh b'nei Adam, he should command people, al shmirat HaTorah b'li tosefet v'lo giraon, he's not allowed to add anything to the Torah. K'mo she'amar acharon anviim, like Malachi wrote, said, Zichru Torat Moshe Avdi, asher tzivita oto b'chorev. All you've got to do, all a Navi can do is remember the mitzvahs which HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu at Har Sinai. But that a Navi can add on anything to the Torah, he's a Navi Sheker. There's no such thing as adding on to the Torah. V'yavtiach, and he's got to promise tovot l'shomreha, v'onesh lo'ovrim alea, כמו שעשו ישעיהו, ירמיהו ויחזקאל. ויצווה ציוויים, ויזהיר אזהרות שלא בענייני דת. He can also tell us something which are not directly connected to the Torah. They're not against, but they're not also mentioned. כגון שיאמר, הילחמו על עיר פלונית, go and fight. או אומה פלונית, כמו שציווה שמואל את שאול להילחם בעמלק. According to the Rabbi in Perishah Mishnayos, what Shmuel told him was Horat Sha'ah, was an emergency. It was an emergency. Horat Sha'ah. But that, says the Rambam, does not create halacha. Halacha, the legal conceptual ideas of Torah, have to go through the framework of Torah Shebal Peh, which is Mishnah, Bavli, Yerushalmi. And the minute something isn't mentioned in Bavli, Yerushalmi, then that doesn't become halacha. So what Shmuel did was actually an emergency, Horat Sha'ah, just like Eliyahu did on Har HaKarmel. Okay, what Eliyahu did on Har HaKarmel was even worse, because there he had made a mizbeach outside the Beis HaMikdash, etc., etc. Okay, but says the Rambam, Milchemat Amalek, what Shmuel said was an emergency, wasn't the norm, and what he did wasn't the norm. Right. Where do we know that from? Let's carry on one more stage. I want to go to line number 105 first. Another story of Amalek in the Tanakh. Vayal David v'anashav. And David HaMelech and his guides, they were now in the desert. They were pushed into by Shaul. And now David HaMelech has to find food, has to do something. Okay? Where's he going to get his food from? He's in the desert. Vayal David va'anashav. Vayifshetu el Geshuri. He went out to attack the Geshuri, the Gizri, and the Amaleki. And Amalek. Right? So now David HaMelech, what does he do? He goes and fights against Amalek. Kine yoshvot haaretz asher me'olam bo'acha shura v'aderech Mitzrayim. Because these were the areas around Eretz Israel in Sinai and on the southern part of Jordan. And that's what David HaMelech does. He can't go north. Why can't he go north? Because that's where Shaul is. So what does he do? He's now stuck in the desert in the Negev. Where's he going to get food from? He goes either to the Sinai, northern part of Sinai, which is still a bit more agricultural orientated, or he goes south of Jordan. And he goes and fights against whom? Amalek. That's what's written. The Amaleki. V'ika David et haaretz. V'lo yichayeh ish v'isha. He killed them all off, yeah, no problems. But what does he do? V'lakach tzon uvakar v'chamorim ugmalim ubgadim. Takes all their things. How could he go and take their things?
Because that's why he battled them in the first place.
1 minute.
He
Did he
needed
keep
to
the
eat.
mitzvah of Amalek?
No, it wasn't. He needed to eat.
Yeah, but so what? If there's a mitzvah of Mechias Amalek, what does he do? Oh,
He killed them in order to eat.
Right, but it's also you've got to destroy everything.
Are we sure it's something?
Well, how does he know that? It's not written in the Torah. It's
Shmuel.
only Shmuel. But that was the Horat Shah.
Right, that proves it. Correct.
Okay.
Right. That's the proof. That according to the Rambam, it becomes actually a Horat Sha'ah. There's no mitzvah to go and do it. Now,
Is this before Shaul fights?
no, after. David HaMelech is after Shaul.
So who's he fighting? There's nobody left.
No, there were other
Yeah.
tribes. Agog manages to have children. Remember, what does Shmuel do?
He leaves the king.
Pardon? He has to go and kill the king. Shaul has already killed off some of Amalek. Meanwhile, Agog has had a good time in prison. You know these prisoners. Yeah, what they can do whilst they're in prison. Creates a new Amalek. Right. Now, besides that, let's go back to the story of Amalek. Now, Shmuel, what does he do? Shmuel, correct, goes and kills off the king. But why doesn't he destroy all the animals according to Rashi? Yeah, I know it's interesting. Why does he leave the animals then? Shmuel only goes and kills Agog. But why does he go and kill Agog now? Why? Now, according to the Chinuch, there's no problem why. Why does he go and kill the Agog? Because, according to the Chinuch, I see a guy from Amalek, and kill him. No problems. But according to the Rambam, Shmuel could just go and kill Agog just like this? No. You need a war. You need a king. How do you go and do it? So we've got two questions on the behavior of Shmuel. Number one, Shmuel goes and kills Agog. According to the Chinuch, no problems. But according to whom? The Rambam, how does Shmuel go and kill him?
If he's part of the Tzibur,
No, he's not. The war's over. Finished. It's only in war you do that. And if anybody, the Melech should have done it. Shmuel's a Novi.
Okay, so because he's a Navi, he's allowed to.
A Novi's just allowed to go and kill somebody just like that.
If he has a certificate.
Apparently so.
Shmuel, guys, gives a very interesting concept here. What does he do? Line number 95. Line number 95. Vayomer Shmuel. Shmuel goes up to Agag and says to him the following. Kasher shikla nashim charbecha. The same as your sword killed off women. Ken tishkal minashim imecha. so your mother will see how you die. וישסף שמואל את הגג לפני השם בגילגל. Shmuel kills him off. Now, Shmuel gives a reason. What do you mean? Why does he have to give Agog reasons? Listen, you killed off somebody, so I'm going to kill off you. You're an Amaleki. I don't need reasons. You're an Amaleki. Why does he start giving him droshes? Why does he start giving him excuses?
You just said the war was over.
Exactly.
But it's not over until it's over.
1 minute, it's not over. No, he doesn't say that.
It's not over till
Do you need an excuse to kill off an Amaleki? No, Shmuel told Shaul to do it. Why does Shaul start giving excuses to Agog? Says the following, says the Malbim, a brilliant explanation. Hey Shivlo, Hagam she'ata rotzeh yoter b'mavet, you, Agog, would prefer to die now. Yeah, you don't want to remain in captivity. You don't want it. There won't be, what's it called, the shalit business.
Yeah.
Okay, there won't be. You'll be in prison the rest of your life. So what do you prefer as a king? You want to die. V'haya ra'oi shelo amitcha. It would have been better for you that I shouldn't kill you. Leman tishaer b'chayim hamarim mimavet. That you should have a bitter life, which will be worse for you than death. From the king down to the bottom. Esezot, but I'm going to do this. Babur imcha. Sheyela mida keneged mida. Kumo shecharbecha. Shikla, nashim. Bahorgecha b'nehem ashuvuyim etzlecha. The same as what you did. You wiped out. Goodness knows how many people, and all their mothers saw it. You're a murderer. You are a murderer. There was no Geneva Convention. You're a murderer. Vayu imoteim shkulot, and their mothers became mothers of victims, shchol. Kain imcha, so also your mother. Ata shkula yoter minashim ha'ele. Bameh she'amit et bena, she הייתה רוצה שתהיה בחיים. Your mother wanted you to remain alive, but I'm not going to let it happen. So why does Shmuel kill him? Because Agog is a murderer. Not Amalek. Amalek is over. No war. Shmuel kills Agog because he himself murdered people. And that's why Shmuel kills him. Not because of Amalek. Because if it would be killed because of Amalek, he wouldn't be allowed to do it. But now the question arises, what about the animals? What happened here? Why does he let the animals live? The simple answer is, because what? Because the war's finished. So I can't kill off animals in the framework of the war. Without war. Right? So we see here the consequences. The Meshech Chochmah in line number 110 says the following. Timchet Zecher Amalek. בספר החינוך כתב, ועל כל יחיד שיקרא לפניו מזרעו עמלק מצווה זו. Right? According to the chinuch, everybody's allowed to do it. ולרש"י, שפירש זכר מאיש, מישור ועד שא, שלא יהיה שם עמלק נזכר, אפילו על בהמה לומר, בהמה זו משם עמלק הוא. מוכח, דעל יחיד אין מצווה. There's no mitzvah. The chinuch doesn't say there's a mitzvah to kill off the animals. Let's say Shmuel killed Agog because of Amalek. But there's no mitzvah on the individual to go out and kill the animals. That's why Shmuel doesn't do it. Where do we know that from? The answer is, Dari Mefurash B'Shmuel. Vayal David B'Anashav. ויפשטו אל הגשורי והגזרי והעמלקי. הרי דביחיד אין מצווה לאבד hatzon ubakar. There's no mitzvah on the individual to go out and kill. So therefore, what do we learn from this? Two explanations why Shmuel kills Agag. The first explanation, according to the Chinuch, is because on the individual, there's a mitzvah to kill off Amalek. That's the Chinuch. According to the Rambam, why does he kill him? Because he's a murderer. So therefore, all well and good.
You might have some mitzvah to kill a murderer.
Pardon? And therefore, it becomes, in situations where I know he's a murderer, a goy, you don't need Bezdin, because then the question arises, why didn't Shmuel bring him to Bezdin? Okay, we're not going into all the complications of all this. But, now we're going to go to the last stage. Why doesn't Shaul kill off the animals? Let's go back to the story. Okay? Shaul doesn't kill the animals. So he starts giving all explanations. What does Shaul think? What? He just doesn't listen to Shmuel. What does he do here? Pardon?
Didn't the people want the animals?
1 minute. So what?
He was a weak king.
Okay. Halachically, how does he answer? And here we're going to go into something very, very interesting. Okay? What does Shaul say to Shmuel? Shaul said to Shmuel, okay, Asher shamati b'kol Hashem. I listened to Hashem. Ve'elech b'derech asher shlachani. But the people took it. The people took the animals first. They took it. Now, one of the great commentators has a brilliant insight on this. What does it mean the people took it? I couldn't control all my soldiers. Now, what does this mean? Now let's go to the last page. Lachen nireh. It would appear, this was written by one of the great Lithuanian Gedolim. His name was Rabbi Yontef Lippman. He was the Rav of Bialystok. He wrote a fascinating book on Tshuvas called the Oneg Yontef. He, in his introduction, has got a very great introduction. And one of the notes in the introduction, he says the following. Lachen nireh. Da'af sheshmuel amar lo, ve'im ata me'ish ad isha me'olel ad yonek mishor atzeh, mikol makom, ein chiyuv la'arog ha'beimot, ולהחרים השלל עד שיהרוג מקודם את כל האדם שבהם, שאז מצווה להחרים גם בהמות. There's an order. You first kill off the what? The people, and then you kill the animals. Right? Now, why? Because you want to wipe out all the memory. So which is the first memory of Amalek? The people. The next is the animals. Right? And as long as people are members of Amalek are living, there's no mitzvah to kill the animals yet. You have to kill off everybody. Now, what did Shaul tell them to do? Ulefi zeh, line number 131. Nireh. Shezot hayta atzato shel Shaul. שיזכה העם בשלל קודם שימחו ויהרגו את העמלקים. You soldiers take all the animals. Take all the animals. You can have them.
That's food.
1 minute. Correct, it's food. Yeah, you take them. Now, the minute it belongs to Am Yisrael, there's no mitzvah to kill off the animals. So what does Shaul do? Shaul goes and tells the people, I know that you need food. I know that you need clothes. I know, what's it called? Therefore, what do you do now? Shaul goes and tells the people, go and take the animals. as long as Agag and some of the soldiers are still living, and we're still running after them, then what happens? You can take them. There's no mitzvah. Now, V'hitchakem, line number 135. Sorry, I'm carrying on from line 131. ולפי זה נראה שזו הייתה עצתו של שאול, שיזכה העם בשלל קודם שימחו ויהרגו את העמלקים, שאז עדיין לקם מצווה בהריגת הבהמות, וממילא אחר כך שיהרגו את העמלקים לא יהיה שוב מצווה בהריגת הבהמות, כיוון שכבר זכו בהם אנשי המלחמה קודם שנתחייבו להורגם, because they already belongs to them, the animals belong to them. ועטו מי שקנה בהמות מעמלק. I had a business deal with an Amaleki before Shaul was told to kill Amalek. And I went to this guy, he had a big wholesale dealer of what? Of cows. And I bought from Amalek a whole lot of cows. I've got to go and kill them after the war. What do you think, guys? Obviously not. Why not? Because they belong to me. The fact that they once belonged to Amalek, so what? They belong to me now. So therefore, Atu mi shekana בהמות מעמלקים בזמן רב קודם המלחמה מחויב להרוג הבהמות, הלא כבר זכה בהם והם שלו, they belong to him. והתחכם שאול להביא את אגג מלך עמלק. Now Shaul brings Agag. להביאו להראות לשמואל שעדיין אחד מהם קיים. One of them is still living. ומהני זכיית הבהמות. He already belongs to the Jews. והיה יכול להביא איש אחד מהעמלקים. He could have brought any עמלקים. וכשבא לשמואל אמר אשר שמעתי בקול השם, היינו שלא עבר מצווה. I didn't do any avera. There's no avera. I didn't do any avera. I didn't do any sin. This was the arrangement with me and my soldiers. One Amaleki is living, that people could go and take the food, the animals. What does Shmuel now say to him? Shmuel says to him, correct. Halachically, you might be correct, but the thing stinks.
That's not what I told you to do.
The thing stinks. והשיב שמואל על זה, החפץ לשים בעולות וזבחים כשמוע בקול השם, הלא מוטב לעשות מצווה כתיקונה, ולא תעשה, לעשות תצדקה למפתע נפשי ממצוות עשה. Guys, my king has to be straight. My king has to go difnim mishuras hadin. Don't start doing circular chochmas and feuerstick, because that's not a king. A king goes gleich, straight. And Shaul's avera was that what? That he showed Am Yisrael. That's the problem. He shows Am Yisrael something which might be legally correct, but was morally corrupt. That's what Shaul does. And that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Shmuel, he cannot be the king. The king has to be in front of the people, the leader who goes everything, follows HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a perfect way. Legally, he was correct, but morally, there was something wrong. And that was the sin of Shaul. Shaul did listen to Hashem, correct. He did everything according to the law. He left one Amaleki alive, and therefore the people could take the food. Nothing is wrong with it, halachically. But Shmuel says to him, and that's why, guys, Shmuel and the prophets are the moral compass. Let's go back to the 4 different leaders of the Jewish people. Kohen deals with the religious standing. Sanhedrin deals with halacha. The king is the one who leads. But who is the moral compass? The Novi. In the same way as Shmuel rebukes Shaul on a moral status, so Natan Hanavi rebukes David for what he did with Bathsheba. You didn't do anything wrong. Halachically, you didn't do it. You covered yourself in every single way. But Kivsat Harash, the lamb of the poor person, morals. And that is the message of the Nevi'im. We started off by saying, correct, Nevi'im sometimes give us the world of halacha. No, that's not the job of a Novi. The job of the Novi is the moral compass of the Jewish people. And that's where Shmuel could not, after this, look at Shaul. He loved Shaul. He loved him. But the minute he saw Shaul listening to the people, not being morally correct, he cannot be the king for me. Call to everybody. Pardon?
So we can't say he should go to Somebody else's places.